Hello viewers, hope you're all doing good. Welcome to this channel. I'm Venkat and this is just me, an open source channel. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how to use Kubespray to deploy a Kubernetes cluster. So Kubespray is a very fantastic production ready method of creating your Kubernetes cluster. So I've been wanting to do this video for a very long time. So I think there will be like 2 or 3 videos I've planned for regarding Kubespray. So this video is about using Kubespray and using Vagrant Virtualbox for creating your cluster. Right, Kubespray. Using Kubespray, you can deploy a production-ready Kubernetes cluster. By production-ready, I mean it's easy to scale your nodes. It's easy to manage your cluster. It's easy to upgrade to any version. It's all managed by Ansible playbooks. So if you're not used to Ansible, go ahead and learn about Ansible. Although you don't need to know about Ansible, it's all done for you. But it's good to know if you want to customize it to your use case, then you can edit the Ansible playbooks. There are multiple roles, a master role, child role, HCD role, and so on. So it also deploys a highly available master and HCD cluster. This Kubespray uses Ansible playbooks and everything is customizable. You can specify the number of master nodes, the number of HCD nodes, where the HCD nodes needs to run, how many worker nodes and what OS, what operating system, what distro you need for each of the worker nodes or master nodes, what CNI plugin, what overlay network you want, what version of Kubernetes. So completely customizable. For this video, I'm going to be using the default one, whatever comes in, and you can change your cluster name, cluster configuration, and everything. So I plan to do a few videos around Kubespray topics. So this is the first in that series. So let's dive straight in. Okay, so it's in the GitHub. If you just type Kubespray, it will take you. The first link will take you to the GitHub page. Kubespray. The first thing we're going to do is git clone the repository. Clone or download. Click that link. Copy. Git clone, paste the URL. So that's going to copy the checkout Kubespray repository. So that's all good. And we've got the documentations here. So now I'm going to be using the Vagrant environment, but if you've got a separate set of nodes already provisioned that you want to deploy Kubernetes onto, then that's another video that I'm planning to do. We have to configure slightly differently, but this one, if you want to run your Kubernetes cluster using Kubespray on your laptop, on your workstation, then you can use Vagrant to do that. So bear in mind, the thing that I'm going to show you today is going to use the VirtualBox, but it also supports the libvirt QEMU emulator, the libvirt kernel-based virtualization KVM thing. But I'll show you it in a different video. But for this one, I'm going to be using VirtualBox. But bear in mind, using libvirt, performance-wise, it's better, it's faster because it's kernel virtualization supported in the in Linux itself. So that's going to give you a much better performance. For this, we'll stick with the VirtualBox thing. Okay, so for VirtualBox, what we're going to do is just do Vagrant up. We've got the Vagrant file, which I'll show you in a minute. So the requirements are, let me close this. So the requirements are you need to have Python version 3 and you have to install certain um, Python packages, Python modules. Okay, so cd to Kubespray. In there, you've got all the files that you need and cluster.yaml. So that's the master playbook. And it has got all roles. So there's roles here, the scripts, the bootstrap scripts, inventory. That's where you configure your cluster, how you want your cluster, what nodes are in your cluster, and so on. There's the Ansible configuration file. Okay, so let's look at the Vagrant file. But before that, you need to have Python version 3. So I'm running Arch Linux. So I've got Python 3 already running, which Python So Python minus minus version. So I've got Python version 3.7.3, and you also need a Python pip, which pip minus minus version, and it's using the Python 3.7. Pip version is 19.0.3. So that's all needed. And if you look at the requirements.txt file, cat requirements.txt, so we need these Python modules: Ansible 278, Ginger, net address, PBR, and all these things. So if you've got Ansible already installed on your machine, it could be a latest Ansible, but it expects version 2.7.8. So it's going to uninstall whatever Ansible version you've got in your machine right now, and it will install 278 via Python pip. Okay, so the first thing to do is to install these Python modules. Sudo pip install -r requirements.txt. So I've installed all these modules previously while doing a test run of this video. So requirements already satisfied. So if you're running it for first time, it will pull all the dependencies, all the packages, and install all these modules. So that's done, and the next step is to do Vagrant up. That's it. So, but before doing that, let's look at what's in the Vagrant file. vi Vagrant file. Okay, let's go to the top. Okay, so that's a pretty extensive Vagrant file, and I'll go through them very quickly. Um, Okay, the supported OS. So it's supported on a variety of operating system: Ubuntu, Fedora, CentOS, Red Hat, SUSE, CoreOS, and many other distributions. So these are the supported operating system. Number of instance. By default, if you use this Vagrant file, it's going to deploy a 3 node cluster. Okay, instance name prefix k8s. So your virtual machines will be named k8s-1, k8s-2, k8s-3. So if I show you, um, okay, so let me show you. I haven't got any virtual machines in VirtualBox now. VirtualBox. Okay, so as you can see, I don't have any virtual machines. You can do the same thing in the command line. vbox manage list VMs. So I haven't got any VMs. Okay, and vm.GUI false, which means it's headless, so it's a server thing. By default, all the virtual machines that will be created will have 2 gig of memory and 1 CPU, and it will be in the 172.17.8 network. OS, by default, it's Ubuntu 18.04, but you can change that to Ubuntu 16.04, CentOS 7.6, or OpenSUSE or CoreOS or anything. But by default, it uses Ubuntu 18.04. Network plugin is Flannel, so you can use Calico, ViewNet, or anything you want. HCD instances. So how many HCD node you're gonna deploy? So that's set to number of instances. So number of instances is 3. So we're gonna deploy HCD on all the 3 nodes. And number of master instances. Kube master instances is if number of instances equals 1. So if you're just deploying one instance, just one master instance, right? That's obvious. But if you've got more than one instance, in this case, we are having 3 instances. So it will be number of instances minus 1. So 3 minus 1. So we'll be having 2 master node in our 3 node Kubernetes cluster. Node instance, number of instances. So basically all the 3 nodes are going to be worker nodes. Um, So this one, all the below settings applies only to libvirt provider if you're using libvirt, not VirtualBox. Okay, and there is the configuration file inventory sample. By default, it uses the configuration in the inventory sample. I'll show you what the files we have in that directory, and that's it basically. So we've got all these Vagrant stuff. Okay, let's close this. Let's look at the file structure for a bit. inventory, cd to inventory, cd to sample. So that's the file. So that's the sample inventory. So if I look at inventory.ini file, so that's the host file it uses by default. Kube master, kube node, but it's all commented. But don't worry, it's all done in the Vagrant file itself. Cd to group vars, hcd.yaml, hcd.yaml, nothing in there. Cd to all. Okay, so vi all.yaml. So here you can configure some of the options. hcd kubeadm enabled is false. Data directory varlib hcd. Load balancer port. Okay, and what else we've got? So we've got few configurations that you can customize here. If I go one level above and into K8s cluster, so we've got the add-ons. If you want to configure any specific uh, thing, you can do it here. So K8s cluster, so that's the cluster configuration. If you're using Calico, Canal, Flannel, or Weave, you can customize the YAML files here. And if if you want any add-ons, that can be customized here. Let's take a look at k8s cluster.yaml. So kube config directories, etc Kubernetes, cert directory, kube version 1.14.3, the latest is 1.15.0. Image repo is the Google Cloud Registry or Google Container Registry. Retry stagger, kube log level. This is the cluster-wide configuration that you can do. And by default, it uses network plugin Calico, not Flannel or anything. But in the Vagrant file overrides it. In the Vagrant file, we define that the network plugin we're going to be using is Flannel. So that's the service address, pod CIDR network, network prefix, API server, and all sorts of cluster configuration that you need. So for this demo, for this video, we are just going to concentrate on the Vagrant file, on the Vagrant environment. But on my future video, I'll show you, I will create some virtual machines manually, and then we can customize this configuration. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is do Vagrant up. Okay, it's going to download the Vagrant 1804 box, but I've already downloaded it because I ran a test run of this video before, so it has downloaded the Ubuntu 1804 image. If you're doing it for the first time, it's going to pull the image from from Vagrant. Um, the other thing to note is, so once it first provisions the 3 virtual machines and then goes to the bootstrap step where it runs the Ansible playbooks on all the 3 nodes simultaneously. So depending on the processor speed and depending on the hard drive you're using, whether SSD or the magnetic ones, and depending on your internet connection, it might take longer. So when I did a test run, it took me about 20 minutes from the time I did the Vagrant up command to the time it has completely done with the cluster. It took me about 21 to 22 minutes, so it might vary depending on your processing power and the internet speed. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the video here and come back in about 20 minutes time when it's ready, and I'll show you what it has actually done. All right, I'm back and the command has completed, and we should be having a highly available production ready Kubernetes cluster with 3 nodes. And surprisingly, it took only less than 10 minutes. But when I was running it last night, it took me 20 minutes. I don't know. Maybe because I have got all the containers images downloaded when I did the first run last night. So that might be it. Okay, so anyways, so that's a summary. And if you scroll up, the scroll list will be too long. What it has done is basically the Ansible output. And okay, so if you want, you can scroll through the output and see what it has done to provision your cluster. But let's not worry about it. So we've got the cluster, and how do we access the cluster from our host machine? So before that, let me show you the list of VMs it has created. VBox manage list VMs. So now you can see, so that's the generic image it has downloaded, and from that image it has deployed all the other virtual machines. So Kubespray, K8s1, K8s2, K8s3, these VMs. And if I do Vagrant status, so that will give you the list of VMs, and K8s-1, 2, and 3 running. Okay, so how do we gain access to this Kubernetes cluster? So on the Kubespray directory, not in here. Okay, inside the Kubespray directory, go into inventory and then go into sample artifacts. Okay, so when I initially showed you this directory, it only had the group vars and the inventory.ini file. So now it has the artifacts directory. Cd to artifacts, and there you will have the admin.conf file, the kubectl.shell script, and kubectl. So there are a couple of ways you can use. Either you can copy the admin.conf to your .cube directory under your home directory, or you can directly use the kubectl.shell command. It's just a simple wrapper script that uses the admin.conf file. If I show you the file, so as you can see here, it uses the kubectl command, and with the option kubeconfig, which is set to admin.conf, this file, so you don't have to copy the file. But anyways, I prefer to use kubectl from my host machine, so I'm going to copy the admin.conf file, admin.conf to the .cube under my home directory under the name config. Okay, so we are all good now. If I do kubectl cluster info, there you go. Our cluster is running, core DNS, Kubernetes dashboard is enabled. Let's see what version it has installed. kubectl version minus minus short. Okay, so it has installed version 1.14.3. kubectl get nodes. That's good. So as you can see, two master, and all of them are actually worker nodes. kubectl get nodes minus o wide. Okay, so these are all Ubuntu 18.04 running Docker 18.9.5. The subnet range is 172.17.8, as I shown you in the Vagrant file. Kubectl get component status. So we've got three etcd nodes and a scheduler controller manager. Kubectl get namespace. So we've got all the defaults. Kubectl minus n kube system get all. Okay, so we've got core DNS, which is a deployment with two replicas. We've got the API server for the two masters, because we've got two master nodes. We've got two API servers, two controller managers, and two schedulers. So we've got kubeproxy. That should be a daemon set. Kubeproxy, yep, kubeproxy is a daemon set. And the flannel, so that's a overlay network, and it's also a daemon set. So there's three running, and node local DNS. We've got the core DNS deployed. We've also got the Kubernetes dashboard. We've also got the Nginx proxy. Okay, so if you have noticed here, there is one problem. It's not actually a problem, but if you see here, the core DNS, it's not in the ready state. It's still in the pending state. That's because it hasn't got sufficient worker nodes to sufficient amount of CPU. I'll show you in a minute. But all the other components are working fine. We've got another core DNS working, so that shouldn't be a problem. But it hasn't got enough CPU resources to run the second replica of the core DNS. Okay, so our Kubernetes is working fine. So let's do a quick test to see everything is okay. I'm going to launch another container, or sorry, another terminal. Okay, let's launch two of them. I'm going to watch kubectl get all. Okay, let's deploy an Nginx application. Kubectl run Nginx minus minus image Nginx replicas 2, or let's say 3. Okay, so that's created, and you can see the Nginx containers are getting created. Let's make it wide, minus o wide. Okay, as you can see, all of them are worker nodes, and each of the pods has gone to each of the worker nodes. Okay, it is 1, 2, and 3. Very soon, once the machine is up, once the container is up, you will see the IP address. And what I'm interested in seeing is I'm going to log into each of the pod and then see if it can talk to each other. So the pod seeder network is 10.233.0.0, and on cube 1 it is 64, cube k it is 2, it is 65, and k it is 3, it's 66. These are all the individual networks connected by the overlay network. So these pods should be able to talk to each other. Okay, so everything is running fine. Let's log into the pod that's running on the worker node 1. kubectl exec minus it nginx q minus minus bash. Okay, and ping, I suppose it won't be there. Yep, let's install it. Apt-get update. It's a basic Debian container, I think, or it might be an Ubuntu container. No problem. Apt-get install iputils dash ping. Okay, install that. Hostname dash I. So the hostname, the IP address of the pod is 10.233.64.2, which is here. Let's try and ping the container that's running on another worker node with a different network. Ping 10.233.65.2. Yep, cool, that's working. And 66.5. Cool, that's also working fine. So the overlay network, Flannel network is working fine. If you want, you can change that to Calico, WeaveNut, or anything, and it can be run on any operating system. So this demo, we've used the default Ubuntu 18.04 that comes with the Vagrant file, but if you want, you can update the Vagrant file, the number of instances, what operating system you want, and how many etcd nodes, how many master nodes, and so on. Okay, finally, we'll just do one more quick testing. Let's see how to access the Kubernetes dashboard now. Okay, Control-D, let's close that. I'm going to refer to the Nginx, the Kubespray documentation for how to do that. I don't have that on top of my mind. Okay, let's go there. Kubespray. Kubespray. Let's go to the docs section. And then getting started. Where is it? Getting started. And here, adding nodes, removing nodes, connecting to Kubernetes, accessing the Kubernetes dashboard. Accessing the Kubernetes dashboard. Okay, let's go back to Vagrant. Vagrant. Okay, and here, let's delete the deployment. kubectl delete deploy nginx. kubectl get all. Okay, the pods are getting terminated. Vagrant, example use of Vagrant, that's okay. I'm looking for the dashboard thing. Okay, so here's the thing. It hasn't got the cluster admin role-based access control thing, so we got to run this command. So, okay, so I need to be in the top level directory. So I'm in the Kubespray directory. And if I run the same command again, kubectl create -f cluster admin -rback.yaml. So cluster role binding created. And now this one here gives you the access token that we need to type in to gain access to the dashboard. kubectl-n kube system describes secret. So we are using the secret called Kubernetes dashboard token, and grep for token, and then do some grepping to get the actual token. Copy that, paste it. So that's the dashboard token. So how would you access the dashboard now? So in order to do that, we have to use the kubectl proxy command, and then the URL will be in the getting started documentation. Um, Connecting to the Kubernetes, accessing Kubernetes dashboard, or you can run kubectl proxy. That's what we need. So run kubectl proxy. Okay, so now it's serving on 8001. So I'm going to copy the token here. Copy the token, and the link to use is this one. Okay, click that one. Okay, cool. Let's make it full screen. Select token and paste the token here, and click sign in. Cool. So that's your Kubernetes dashboard. Let's go to all namespaces, overview, daemon sets, deployments, replica sets, pods. As you can see, there are some problems. If you scroll down here, you will find it. So the core DNS, as I showed you here. Okay. kubectl-n kube system get pods. So that one here, core DNS, is pending there. Okay, so that's the problem we had. So what's the problem? 0 of 3 nodes available. So we have 3 nodes available, but none of them are now available to take this core DNS part. One node didn't match pod affinity, anti-affinity. That's because we've got 2 replicas for this deployment of core DNS. So one replica is running on a worker node, so that's anti-affinity. So another pod cannot go into the same worker node. So that's the anti-affinity. One node didn't match the pod affinity. Okay, one node didn't satisfy the existing pod anti-affinity rules. That's the same thing. 2 insufficient CPUs. The other 2 nodes are insufficient CPUs. Okay, so we didn't have the sufficient CPU. So you might either add more CPUs to your pod, to your worker nodes, or you can increase the number of instances. Thereby, you can have the core DNS running without any issues. So this shouldn't stop you from testing it, because we have the other core DNS replica running. So the place to go is cd to play Kubespray Vagrant file. So in here, you can customize, as I mentioned, the CPU and the amount of memory. If you change the number of CPUs to 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the resources you've got on your host machine, you should be able to run both the replicas of the core DNS. Okay, cool. I don't want to drag this video, so I'll cut it here, and we will have more videos regarding Kubespray in the coming weeks. Thanks for your time watching this video. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. And if you liked it, please share it with your friends. Please follow along this video and see if it works. And if I'm doing something wrong, because I'm not an expert, I'm just learning new things. As I keep learning, I make it a video, so that just trying to give something back to the community. So I might not be right always. So if I'm doing something wrong that you noticed, please let me know. Please don't hesitate. And for any questions or comments or feedback, just leave me a comment. I'll be more than happy, much appreciated. Okay, thank you so much for your time watching this video today. I will see you all in another exciting video next week. Bye bye.